everyone, and welcome to Go-to-Market AI. I'm your host, Sarah McConnell. These days, it seems like every company has AI, but on this show, we want to go a level deeper so you can see firsthand how businesses are actually applying AI to solve your business challenges. We're going deep into the use cases and getting live demos of the latest and greatest in AI technology. Today, I'm joined by Francis Brero, co-founder and chief product officer at MadKudu. Francis, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yep, super excited to have you. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit, who is MadKudu, what do you guys do, and who are you helping in the market?
Yeah, so we're a sales intelligence platform, and our main goal is to help companies turn data into actions for sellers. So we typically tend to help the person who owns creating pipeline. And actually, I'm just going to steal a quote from one of the prospects that we spoke with yesterday. I think she summarized pretty well what it is that we do and the problem that we solve. And she was describing the fact that they have a ton of tools and a ton of data. They've got Marketo Insights, Clearbit, Sixth Sense, Salesforce, Tableau, and a bunch of other tools. And the problem is that they're lacking a command center where everything comes into one place, and they're able to get a 360 of the prospect to make all of this data actionable by the reps instead of having to log into 17 different tools. And so MadKudu really is the solution that brings all of this together into one place and not only just pipes the data in, but also makes sense of it to identify what's really important and how to make it actionable for a rep.
That's amazing. As someone who thinks about pipeline every single day, I'm really excited to see this demo. So with that being said, I would love to jump into the demo and see MadKudu at work.
Absolutely. So we'll focus on three parts of the product where AI is pretty important. And bear in mind, this is not meant to be like a full-on demo of like everything the product does, but rather like three little elements where we've implemented AI because I think it's relevant to the topic of the show today. And so essentially for now, for this first part, we are viewing MadKudu as if we were a rep. So we're a rep, we're logging into Salesforce. Right now, we're able to look at all the accounts that are in our instance. Potentially, we can look at our book of accounts. And let's say I work for Qualified, and one of the things I want to do is I want to run a rip and replace campaign. So I'm going to go after some of our competitors. Usually, running reports in Salesforce is a little bit painful. So reps might want to, run this with natural language. So a rep could come in and say, show me accounts that use, let's say, Drift, because Drift is a competitive product, like something that I might want to go after. And so essentially what this is doing is in the background is looking at all the different fields that are available in Salesforce, in enrichment tools, in any of the data platforms that you've connected to MadKudu to identify any account that uses the technology Drift. And so from there, the rep is basically able to see these are accounts that are using one of our competitors, and then they could say, and have a buyer, because it's even better if you have someone who can actually make the decision and already exist in Salesforce. So essentially, this is like the kind of like typical generative AI use case where you're reducing the complexity of interaction with the system while keeping the ability to run pretty complex queries against extensive amounts of data. So now what we've done is we've allowed reps to interact with substantial amounts of data without having to understand which column to use, which field does what. And now they're essentially able to go in here and find the buyer for that particular account.
That's so cool. As someone who builds the reports for our sales team, like a lot of times I'm helping build those reports. I spend a lot of time in Salesforce helping our reps prioritize. Using the natural language processing to be able to help them ask questions is something that just, one, makes my job incredibly easier because I'm not having to build those reports anymore. But also it opens up something that was usually very operationally difficult for the entire team. And now to your point, like I can operationalize this for my entire team. They can easily pull these reports for themselves. They could then add in something that I own or, something, but doing it in layman's terms in that natural language is just so much easier for people to grasp. So I love this.
And I think it's an interesting point in time where we have system complexity that has been increasing pretty dramatically and still is increasing dramatically. But for the first time with generative AI, we're able to reduce the complexity of interaction with the system. So we're able to increase capabilities without increasing complexity of management. So that's going to be a boon for any RevOps team, essentially, because they're going to be able to do more without needing either more people or more PhDs to figure out how to interact with the UIs of the systems.
Absolutely. That's incredible.
Cool. And so a second use case I wanted to show is another thing that reps have to deal with, right? So in this case, let's say you have an account that's spiking in engagement, right? So awesome. First off, you get a cute little alert from MadKudu saying, hey, this account is showing an increase in engagement. But now the question is, who should I be reaching out to? So you might have a couple people that already exist in Salesforce. But then the question is, well, who are the people that I'm missing? And so what we've built is a level of AI that sits on top of ZoomInfo, Apollo, and LinkedIn Sales Nav to go and look for the right kind of missing contacts in your Salesforce instance. So essentially what it's able to do, it's able to figure out in the past, when we look at your existing customers, these are the types of people that exist on the account. Looking at this particular account, these are the people that are missing from Salesforce. And therefore, these are the people that you should be going after. So for us, it turns out that it's a VP of growth, it's a VP of sales, it's a VP of customer success, like all the people that are in the go-to-market space and are looking to build pipeline either from existing or new business. And so again, it's like simplifying the whole process for the reps so that they don't have to log into Apollo or into ZoomInfo, figure out what query to run, and then remember, okay, I'm looking for someone, but then having to remember, does this person already exist in Salesforce or not? So it's just like taking a lot of the tedious work that reps have to do and simplifying it by just like looking at historical data and, removing 3 or 4 steps from the life of a rep.
Yeah, absolutely. And letting them do it in the system of record that they already spend so much time in. To your point, now I'm not bouncing around to other systems. I'm not having to go back and reference things. It's all done in the same view and in a system that they're already so familiar with and spend a majority of their day with. So this is great.
Yeah, and it's really about just simplifying the work of a rep. Like they don't need to open 17 tabs every single time they want to send a single email. And our goal is to make that simpler.
Totally. Their jobs are hard enough as it is. Think of anything we can do from a tech standpoint to make it easier. They're the ones out there driving pipeline. Anything we can do to make it easier, I'm all for.
Absolutely. And so the last part I'll show you is more on the RevOps side of things. So one of the elements that you might notice here is like we have this concept of who's a good fit for the business. And essentially this is something that is trained on historical data to determine what makes for a good customer or not based on who you've closed in the past. And so one of the things that the system builds out for our RevOps teams is the ability to separate good from bad quality leads. And so what it does, essentially it builds these little decision trees. What's really great about them is that they're very easy to understand. So this is saying, at this point here, we have a 12.45% conversion rate. And now we're saying on one side, we're going to take companies that have more than 100 employees. And on this side, companies that have less than 100 employees. And so what we see is that the companies that have more than 100 employees convert at a slightly higher rate than the folks that are here. And then it's going to, do another split. Okay, now it's like companies that are more than 25. And then it's going to look at what is the, cloud spend that they might have, so on and so forth. And so essentially what this is doing is looking at all the different attributes that exist inside your Salesforce to figure out what is the right way to separate into homogeneous groups, people that are likely to convert from people that are not, just simplifying the work of ICP determination.
Yeah, this is amazing. And I feel like even for companies that are looking to understand their business segments, like we were just talking about pipeline and forecasting and trying to understand like what cohort within your accounts, where do you draw the line? Like where should you make your cohorts to do pipeline modeling? And that's where I immediately went with this. I'm like, oh, this would help me understand, okay, based on conversion percentages, here's where I need to split my different cohorts of my accounts and can apply even these conversion percentages to that modeling to understand, okay, like this particular segment where it's, over 100 employees, but up to 450 employees has a typical conversion rate of this. And I can see where this has a lot of benefits beyond RevOps, because I'm like, oh, I could use this to help with our pipeline modeling and not guessing at what cohorts I should be using.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole idea, making it simple and visual so that it solves the blank page problem of it comes up with a segmentation, and then it's very easy to go and tweak things here and there, but at least you're starting off of something that makes sense.
That's amazing. This is very cool.
And yeah, that's it for the demo of like 3 kind of key features that leverage AI and machine learning with MadKudu.
Amazing. And for instance, I'm assuming for people watching the show, if they're like, this was great, I want to see a full demo, they can come to madkudu.com, request a demo, and see like the full capabilities.
Absolutely, yes. And we have a demo video on the website if they want to do that, or they can request to talk to someone, and we'll give them a more in-depth view as to what we can do.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking us through that demo. I would love to transition into our Q&A section if you're ready.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so my first question is, how long have you been building the AI that you showed today into MadKudu?
So it's been evolving over time, but essentially the AI has always been at the very center of the company. Even the name itself was found through an algorithm. Like we struggled to find a name for the company, and we ended up writing, some algorithm to pick the name based on the cost of SEO, the cost of the domain. We didn't want to end with something that was going to be super competitive, and having the domain that would cost a ton of money. But the core itself, we've been working on this for I would say 5 years with the tree system that we showed. The generative AI side, it's been about a year. As soon as the first kind of readily available GPT models were out, we started incorporating this because it was very clear that this was going to change the complexity of interaction with systems like ours. And we're excited to build more of that into the product.
I love that you used AI to help pick the name. And I will say, of all the go-to-market companies out there, I love MadKudu's name, and I've known it for a very long time and like heard it in the industry.
Thank you.
So AI works, and that's really cool. So is what you showed today, is this all available to customers right now?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. And speaking of customers, who are some of MadKudu's customers?
So we have a lot of different groups of customers. I would say there's one group which is I call them the beta dev. So companies who sell to developers, and you could think of like databases companies like a Cockroach, MongoDB, then like security companies like a Sneak, or even like core developer companies like a Unity.
Okay.
So those are extensive users of the platform because they tend to have a substantial amount of people testing the product for small projects here and there. Like developers like to spin up instances, but they still have a complex enterprise sales cycle where they have to figure out who is the decision maker, where the CTO, the CIO is. So they're like a typical kind of company is going to have a lot of data from different places and try to stitch everything together. In a similar vein, but maybe on the less technical side, like heavy PLG, we have the collaboration tools. If you think of a Lucidchart, Figma, Dropbox, those are all customers that look to MadKudu to identify where are their big pockets of usage within accounts. So on the more enterprise plays. And then we have the traditional, let's say, enterprise sales like a Gong, an Autodesk, or an Avalara, where you're selling to executives and you potentially don't have that kind of PLG motion. And it's like longer sales cycles, and you want to understand like, which technologies are they using? Do they use any of your partners? And what's the best way to get into an opportunity?
Amazing. And my last question for you is, what's next on your guys' AI roadmap? Where are you taking MadKudu's AI in the future?
So I'd say there are two big components to it. One of them is really on the admin side, where we are looking to enhance capabilities, again, to simplify the interaction with the product, both for our internal users, so our support team, as well as the more RevOps team that tends to configure a lot of this. And then for the end user on the sales side, we're building more agents. to run through more of the tedious tasks that reps have to go through, like researching an account, drafting emails based off of all the information that is available. Those are some of the big use cases that come to mind. And maybe if it is relevant to the folks listening, one of the good frameworks that has been shared with me that I'm using a lot now is thinking of, there's kind of three almost personalities to AI that you can think about, and especially in features. It's coach, co-pilot, and agent. And the idea is like a coach is really using AI to help you do better. And it's identifying a lot of unknown unknowns, like showing you something that you might not have thought about. Whereas co-pilots are more about helping you do something. You're saying, I want to write an email. Please help me write a better email. And then agents are really more about like, do this for me. Like you give them the task and you expect the full result to be done, like researching an account or something like that. So we're spending a lot of time figuring out where do we need coaches versus agents. And what's interesting is that reps don't react as well to agents as RevOps might. So there are specific use cases where you're going to need one more than the other in how you present the same potential backend technology. So it's like it's a very interesting piece that I think is still being figured out by most companies out there.
I love that framework. It's such a good encompassing description of all the different stuff we've seen on the show and what I've seen in products. So that's a really great framework. Well, Francis, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. This was a great demo. I loved seeing this in action. And I also love what you guys are doing at MadKudu. So thank you so much for joining us today.